Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining me today to get a brief look at the history of direct instruction. My name is Almitra Berry. I am one of the National Literacy Consultants for SRA McGraw-Hill's line of direct instruction products. I'll be your guide through this brief retrospective. As a former history teacher, I have a fondness for placing current conversations into their proper historic perspective. Direct instruction might not have its present base of scientific validation studies were it not for the lofty goals of our 36th president. Lyndon Baines Johnson declared an all-out war on poverty in 1964. In a special message to Congress, Johnson prefaced his plan with the statement that there is no more senseless waste than the waste of the brain power and skills of those who are kept from college by economic circumstance. Johnson's desire to eliminate poverty by improving education did not fall on deaf ears. I remember Dick and Jane, Sally, Spot, and Fluffy too, back in the 60s when many schools purported to teach children to read with the Dick and Jane series. However, Johnson wanted his plan to chart a new course in education, and it did. At that time, direct instruction, what we called the Big DI, was in development and use at the Bereiter Engelman Program, an early intervention program for at-risk preschoolers at the University of Illinois. The late Carl Bereiter and Siegfried Engelman had designed a program that would close the gap that children at risk enter school with and keep it closed. DI looked different. It sounded different, and it is different. DI works for every child. It worked then, and it works now. If you search the educational journals, you will find more research validation for DI methodology across more demographics than any other methodology that exists. But here's the part they didn't tell most of us in teacher school. As part of Johnson's war on poverty, direct instruction was part of the largest educational study in U.S. history, Project Follow-Through, from 1968 to 1976. To date, Project Follow-Through remains the largest controlled comparative study of pedagogical techniques in human history. Project Follow-Through's goal was to determine scientifically which methodologies could break the cycle of poverty through improving academic instruction for children most at risk. At the study's end, DI students finished above all others in reading, math, spelling, and language. You can see that no other model came close. Many of the others underperformed the control groups. DI even outperformed the cognitive and affective models in their own domains. DI students did not have damaged self-esteem because of the rigorous curriculum either. As you can see, DI outperformed other models in that domain as well. Project Follow-Through data confirmed that children who read, write, and calculate feel better about themselves than those who can't. In spite of the findings, the valid data was not only not disseminated by the government, but rather those methodologies that failed the greatest were those that were promoted, even those that showed the greatest negative gains. Well, anyone who has been to Tijuana and some other border cities has observed this creature and wondered, what is it? Well, we know that all zebras have stripes, and this animal has stripes, but is it a zebra? Many curricula may have elements of direct instruction, but is it the Big DI? What is it that makes the Big DI work, while other methods, even the imitators, fail? Well, DI is different. It is explicit. Nothing is left to chance. No error goes uncorrected. No skill unmastered. DI is intensive, be it reading, language arts, math, or something else. Students are highly engaged throughout the entire lesson. A high cognitive demand is placed on the students, and constant interaction between the teacher and students facilitates a structure that has students constantly using what they have been taught, what they now know, to build new skills, to learn more. It is teacher-directed. The methodology requires that all information, every skill and sub-skill, every concept, and every strategy be taught to mastery. DI accomplishes this through a highly sophisticated analysis of curriculum. It starts with the big idea, say, reading, and then breaks it down so that every discrete element, every underlying structure is developed in an appropriate and scaffolded manner. Undeterred by the bias towards ineffective methods, Engelman stayed his course. He has a passion for children, all children, that is unmistakable. There is only one reason for failure in the DI world. Well, the teacher hasn't taught. There are 3 caveats to this. Every child is capable of learning if, 1, we begin by identifying what they do not know. 2, we place them at an appropriate instructional level. And 3, we teach them everything they need to know, everything, one step at a time, so that every child achieves mastery. I could spend days with you highlighting the myriad schools and tens of thousands of students who have achieved strong results with direct instruction over the years, but they're only giving me 10 minutes. So one instance stands out from the rest. In 1975, Wesley Elementary School in Houston, Texas, was 93% African American and 6% Hispanic. The school was 100% Title I, free and reduced lunch. The principal, now retired, was Thaddeus Lott. You see him here on the cover of Policy Review. When Lott took the principalship at Wesley in 1975, only 18% of the school's third graders scored at or above grade level in reading comprehension. Only 5 years later, after implementing direct instruction programs, 85% were achieving at or above grade level. And then in 1996, 100% of Wesley's third graders passed the Texas State Assessment in reading. Lott's successful implementation brought scores so high that the validity of the scores was challenged. That's a polite way of saying that some folks thought he was cheating. Wesley is not horribly unique. Other majority-minority, high-poverty schools across the country have enjoyed similar success with direct instruction. These successes have been the subject of investigative reports by 2020 and 60 Minutes, and they've had their successes highlighted in PBS documentaries. Back to Johnson, well, he called for a modification of strategies as experience brought to light a change in conditions that showed us our fail points. DI has done just that. Back in the 1960s, DI wasn't very pretty, but it worked. Still, the children have changed, schools have changed, standards have changed, and the DI family has changed and grown. Now reaching children from preschool through adulthood, SRA's family of DI programs focuses on language, language arts, reading, and mathematics. The old Distar is still around, but she's had more than a facelift or two. As language has evolved, as demographics have changed, DI has not only kept pace, it has set the pace for achieving high gains, closing the gap, and keeping the gap closed. Back in the 1960s, I was a poor black child in an inner-city school. Yes, that's me. DI became part of my life when I entered the second grade. It became part of my teaching life in that same inner-city district almost 30 years later. DI made me a better teacher. Now, I am honored to be a spokesperson and advocate for a method that not only touches but transforms the teaching and learning experiences of educators and children across the country. Whether it's regular ed, special ed, gifted ed, or intervention, DI will make the difference for every child who is taught with it. It has been doing so for more than 40 years. I'd like to thank you for taking some time out to join us today. And for further information on direct